Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new video for the machine quilting party. Today we're quilting Superstar! This cool quilting design is such a neat and easy design to stitch on your quilts, and it's one of my favorites for walking foot style quilting. So let's jump on the machine and learn how to get started with Superstar together. So I'm quilting Superstar, and I've begun with a simple star shape, and I marked that on the surface of my quilt and just quilted on the marked lines. And I did it that way just so I would be sure to have that exact beautiful star shape that I wanted. So now I'm going to extend the line I was stitching. I want to stitch a half of an inch beyond it, and this might take a little bit of fiddling. So I wasn't right the first time. I stitched out and it wasn't far enough, so now I'm going to stitch 2 more stitches, then rotate again. Nope, still not long enough. This is one of those things that is kind of tricky whenever you're spacing lines. So here I'm trying to stitch down further so that way this line of the star is lined up with the edge of my walking foot. Well, sometimes you just have to take 1 or 2 stitches at a time until you reach that correct spacing. So now basically we turn this Superstar into a spiral. So I've got the edge of my walking foot lined up with the edge of that line I stitched in the star, and now I'm going to overshoot it. I'm going to keep stitching and then again rotate it around. Take a look at the edge of my walking foot. It looks like I'm about a 1/4 inch off here. So I'll rotate it back and line that up generally. It might save time. In fact, actually, I know it would save time to mark this design fully on your quilt, or at least mark where those points are sticking out. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a ruler and my marking pencil, and I know that that line is going to just basically continue to extend this way. Let's see here. Kind of lining up my ruler and square it up, and I know that line's going to come somewhere like that. Now these marks might not be perfect, and they might not be a good base forever, but they're going to be a good starting point, or at least a good place where I can kind of eyeball it and know that that's generally where I'm going to be changing direction, and I won't have to do quite so much slow, careful stitching and rotating the quilt back and forth. So that looks good. Now I'm going to angle this direction, just following the lines of that initial star shape. And this is one of those reasons why I think marking the initial star shape is pretty important, because, you know, what if you stitched kind of a messed up star to begin with? Sometimes, you know, we're stitching something, and because the walking foot's on the quilt, it can be hard to see the lines. It can be hard to see where you're stitching. And so sometimes having that marked line is really helpful. I can definitely say I've sped up already just having these simple straight lines that I've marked extending beyond the points of the star, because now I have something I can kind of estimate, see where I'm headed, and if I need to stitch further, I can, but this is a good ballpark of where I'm going to stop and pivot the quilt. So here I'm going to rotate and see if my edge of my walking foot, and if you're ever like, well, that's really far away, I can't really see, grab that ruler and line it up, and here I can see I'm about 1/8 of an inch off. So I'm going to rotate back to where I was before and take 1 or 2 stitches this way. Now I'll rotate back, grab that ruler, line it up with the edge of the walking foot, and now that's nice and straight. I guess in a way that's a little bit kind of combining ruler foot quilting with walking foot quilting, but not really. I mean, I'm not using the ruler really as a guide as I'm stitching. That's just helping me line it up and make sure that my straight lines are straight, and I'm echoing and stitching around this star evenly. So here I can use that technique again. You can see I'm pretty far off, and rather than, you know, guess, that ruler helps me know one way or the other. So I can take a few more stitches that direction, rotate it around, and be on the right track. So like I said, those straight lines are a ballpark. They're an estimation of where you will change direction, where the points are going to be, but they're not going to be dead on accurate. I'm going to stop on that line, rotate around and see what it looks like. I might have even overshot this one. Yep, I think I did. See, I overshot that just a bit. But you know what? No big deal. I can kind of angle my line. I can back up one stitch and usually save it. And then I can kind of angle my line as I form that point and bring the edge of my walking foot back in line with that line on the star. So it's really an easy design. It might seem a little complex just because I'm having a little trouble kind of rotating and getting these direction changes, but the idea is very simple. Essentially, stitch a star and then begin spiraling around it in order to expand that shape on the surface of your quilt. And marking it is a great idea. I really think that that can work too. And we've developed a stencil for marking Superstar, so you can mark it on your quilt and have a great baseline for this design on your quilts. So another design that's similar to Superstar that we've already learned this year, and that is Super Wobble. So it kind of has the same idea, the same start, and that is to stitch a shape and then continue to stitch around it using the edge of your walking foot or a guide bar to space the lines of quilting. So kind of whatever you start with in the beginning is what you continue to expand as the design gets bigger. Now you may be wondering, where would Superstar or Super Wobble work best? These designs are going to work great in like the open, uncomplicated areas of your quilt. If you needed a design to quickly cover your quilt and get the layers secured, then I think Superstar would be a great choice because it's going to fill it with a beautiful, angular texture. It's going to really emphasize that star shape, but as the lines expand and overlap, it's almost going to be like an irregular grid, and that's cool too. So definitely try quilting Superstar on your next quilt. And here's what it looks like whenever I finish stitching it. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot quilting this design into this small square with me today. Now you might be wondering, how do we take a design from a small square to stitching it into a bigger quilt? Well, the simple fact of the matter is not all quilts have to be quilted all in one big piece. So the quilt behind me is Marvelous Mosaic, and that is what we are quilting along together in this series. So if you'd like to join in the fun and begin quilting out some walking foot style designs into small squares, which makes them really nice and manageable on your home sewing machine, all you're going to need to join in the fun of this quilt along is to pick up a copy of my book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day. Inside, you'll find the 30 designs that we're going to stitch together along with the Marvelous Mosaic quilt pattern. So come and check it out at leahday.com/walkingfoot. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss the next video coming out soon. And also post your comments and questions. I'm here to help you learn more about machine quilting. Until next time, let's go quilt.